Hi, it's Dame. I'm Dame's place. Oh, look at Kitty. Oh, I'm not gonna go out. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a story. I tell stories on my channel. I'm gonna try to keep it kind of low. Real quick. I'm talking about Joe Mad Dog. That was a nasty nickname they gave him, Sullivan. He's the only man to ever escape Attica Prison, and he escaped in 1971, about May of 1971, and he was recaptured a time later, but after the riot in Attica Prison. Attica Prison had a riot in 1971. It's considered one of the bloodiest riots in American prison history. Many died, and it haunts the place. It's haunted with the memories of that and what happened. And Rockefeller was involved with that. He was the governor at the time. So I'm not going to get into that right now because you can look that stuff up. And this man, Joe Sullivan, was the only guy to escape from Attica. And he was hired by Tommy Torpey and Tommy Taylor, who were bodyguards for Sammy Gingillo. I think that's the right way to say it. I apologize for messing that up. But they were his bodyguards. And then another faction, Valenti and his guys, came from Pittsburgh, I think. If I'm wrong, I apologize. It's not on purpose. It's because I don't know the ins and outs of it in this way. But I did grow up there, and I was around these people as a little girl. I grew up in Rochester, and these were who my uncle worked for, some of these people. So he ran car lots, car dealerships, big ones. Like John Holtz was one. There were others. When he had the Irish Peddler, he had an antique shop. He came home to help me take care of my husband. At the time, had been burnt in a work accident by his father, and he was in a coma, and then he couldn't use his hands and his face. They didn't think he'd live, but he did, and he couldn't do anything. So my Uncle Tom came from Kansas City to live with me to help take care of my baby girl. I had a little girl that was like maybe a year. And during that time, and he stayed for a few years, and he had the Irish Peddler antique shop, and that was on Route 98 in Alexander, New York, right down from Sunnyside, motorcycle shop. He was asked by the warden at the time, who bought furniture and artwork and stuff from a little bit here and there, and was a friend of mine, a friend of his, we thought. And he said, do you want to go into Attica Prison and do a tour? You want to come in and do a tour, Tom? And my Uncle Tom says, yeah, for sure. I mean, he was signed up. He was like, I absolutely want to. And he also knew that Tommy Torpey was in prison, and he went in and he was able to have coffee with Tommy Torpey, and I think he was in B Block. He went on the tour with the warden, took him around, everything, and my uncle was like, oh my God, the door's open before he gets there, it's like everybody's waiting, like on pins and needles, it's crazy. And he said, and then we got to the block where Tommy Torpey was, and he's sitting at the desk, there's a few guys around, and it's Uncle Tom, and here he comes, and they have coffee. They made coffee and sat down at the desk and talked about old times, and who knows what else, I don't know, because he went in by himself. I didn't go on that tour. I didn't really go on tours in the back too much unless I had to, like the one when they hired me, and then if I had to go to the back to A Block or something, or possibly for the chapel or something. But anyway, here's my uncle. Perhaps that was a setup, perhaps not. Perhaps it was, not a bad setup. Maybe it was a good setup, a good meeting. But my uncle felt like sad about seeing his friend in that condition, but happy that he was good-spirited, and he was like, God is everywhere. And, at the time he seemed like, I guess, whatever. He felt he was good with God and stuff, and he was living his best life he could possibly live in, like, hell on earth. So anyway, that's my little story of him going in, seeing Tommy Torpey and doing the tour and coming out, and everything was fine. And he lived in that little place, that little town, for a number of years after that. So there was never a problem with my uncle and any information coming out of him or anything. He wasn't in the witness protection program. I said in an earlier video that, I had hoped he would still be alive, and it was only in the last 6-8 months that I really gave up hope. And that was because he could have just started a new life. I'm just his niece. I'm not his kid. He didn't owe me anything. And I just had hoped that. And when I found his address in Kansas, I thought, he went back there because he liked it. And I lived with my uncle in Kansas after I graduated high school. And but that wasn't the truth. It was just a coincidence, I guess. And I just had to say, like, okay, I've turned over everything I can. I can't figure anything else out. He's really gone, and I don't know where he is, but I know he's in heaven, and he's looking down, and he's praying the best for all of us. All right. So that was my little setup story for Uncle Tom, Coffee, and B Block. I think it was B. I could be wrong, though. Like, there might be old, peeking, not speaking. One of, the football players over there. I'll tell a story about the football team, too. They have football in, and look on my thing. I attached a video. It's Ala talks about Joe Sullivan, and he's going to talk about the football team. All right. I'll leave it there. Peace.